Hi there, I'm Claire Chancellor from Be Your Purpose Coaching. Today I want to explore with you the presuppositions of NLP. Now we understand that NLP is all about shifting your mindset to be able to get the results that you want in the outside world. But in doing so, the coach must have a foundation or a level of confidence and principles that they live by so that that energy and that understanding, that confidence can ripple out into their client's experience too. This is what the presuppositions are all about, is, again, a level of principles or rules or beliefs that you can adapt to be able to live an empowered life. So let's get started. I want to go into what is NLP. I want to look at it a little bit more deeper before we dive into the presuppositions. We know that when we are looking at the belief system of somebody, that their beliefs will turn into their words. Their words turn into their actions turn into habits, their habits turn into values, and their values turn into their destiny and their outcome. So when we are able to shift somebody's limitations at that higher belief level, that ripple effect is quite impactful, right? When we look at NLP, we understand that it's all about the mind, the linguistics, the things that we're communicating, and the programming that we have within ourselves. When we look at the mind is composed of all of these neural pathways, just like the roads that we travel on each and every single day. And on those roads, there are these intersections, right? And so depending on what program is operating will depend on what route you are going down. The question is your familiar neural pathways taking you down a road of success or a road of limitations? So as an example, somebody who's ruminating over stress, creating procrastination, doubt, they are traveling down some pretty worn, bumpy roads. And so with NLP, we can recognize that and we can shift it to be able to clear away and bring in options for a much smoother ride. We can put you in the driver's seat to be able to navigate a new path where you are living a life of a lot more ease, pleasure, fun. So it's a lot of fun with NLP. To break this down even further, I want you to think about the way that you are experiencing your reality. You are here as that human being. You're taking in all sorts of information through pictures, sounds, feeling, taste, smells. Your senses hold you in this reality. And so the question is, when you are taking in those pictures or hearing those sounds, what meaning are you putting to it? Because this will determine what type of outcome that you get. So the programming that you have in place right now, it will either be like a fancy app and it's just making your life easier, bringing in options, bringing in choices, getting you to where you want to be, or your programming can be outdated, like a stale old computer, and it's sort of like breaking down, not getting the results that you want. This is the fun with NLP. We can actually put in place those fancy new apps to be able to get the outcome that you want. In my NLP training, we definitely dive into that mind-body connection so that people can really create the results quickly. So back to presuppositions. The presuppositions, again, they're those principles to be able to enhance your life. This is like that foundation so that those fun apps actually create that fun experience that you want to be able to level up in your life, level up in your business, level up in your relationships. Some may seem quite simple, but yet some are quite thought-provoking. It's important to understand the presuppositions of NLP because you will weave them into every single NLP session. They are going to be part of that unconscious programming that when you show up for a client or your friend, a family member, that you are bringing in a sense of curiosity about what is possible in their world. So the first one is quite simple, to respect the other person's model of the world. And at the root of this one really comes down to a core level of trust, building up that sense of rapport, approaching somebody so that they feel safe enough to explore their limitations, to drop down their walls and barriers. Respecting the other person's model of the world is pretty much all about checking in with the way that they perceive their world, and possibly even what have they deleted, distorted, generalized that are keeping themselves stuck. Now, as the coach, you don't need to take on board their limitations. In fact, I would discourage you from doing that. But it's just coming from a sense of curiosity about how they're doing life, basically. So again, respecting their point of view and exploring other options. So everybody's model of the world is going to be different, depending on their childhood, their upbringing, their values, their beliefs. Even siblings are going to have a different model of the world. So somebody who may have been brought up in a poor household, one sibling may have this innate drive to create security and wealth because of how they felt in their experience growing up with a limited amount of money. Whereas another sibling may have taken that on board as part of their identity, that you have to work hard for money and that they're not going to get anywhere in life. So even siblings, you have to really respect the model of the world and check out what is actually motivating them. So quite simple, respecting the other person's model of the world, trust, rapport, curiosity. The next one are people and not their behaviors. Accept the person, change the behavior. In today's world, we are really quick to label someone. We see them like either acting out or misbehaving or something like that, or even seeing them in their illness. And we're very quick to label them rather than actually seeing the core human person that they're that they're just doing the best with what they've got. So as an example, someone might be quite angry or depressed or anxious, and while we're quick to like either want to move away from that, this presupposition is to say, okay, accept there's a difference here, open the space for possibility about what is actually going on underneath the behavior. I've jumped ahead a little bit there, but even just the idea of coming back to accepting the person for who they are, the truth of what they're trying to achieve, rather than seeing the noise that they're creating. So yeah, quite an interesting presupposition. Okay, so the next presupposition is that everyone is doing the best they can with the resources they have available. Now, when you think about your experience in Okay, so the next presupposition is that everyone is doing the best they can with the resources they have available. Have you ever experienced any of these? Like a neighbor playing loud music in the afternoon and you immediately judge them as selfish, or a client that texts you out of hours or on a Sunday afternoon and you immediately judge them as being inconsiderate. Maybe a friend is cancelled on you at the last minute, and again, you're convinced that they're taking you for granted, or a colleague that asks you to pay for the bill, and again, quick to respond with them assuming that they're just taking. When we come back to that presupposition that everybody is doing the best they can with the resources they have available to them, this one is actually asking us to look beyond our triggers, beyond our judgment, and to almost, have pre-frame, to have a look at actually what is going on. That neighbor that's playing loud music in the afternoon, I would say, isn't that wonderful that you're actually in a neighborhood where people are lifting their energy, they want to have fun, they want to have, that playfulness around them, instead of actually going like, this is an inconvenience. It was just about reframing and having a look at what is actually going on that's causing them to do what they're doing. That client that's texting you out of hours, what is going on underneath them? Are they stuck in such a crisis mode, or you actually haven't articulated your boundaries strong enough for them to recognize that this is not this is not creating rapport and trust between you? So again, looking at that presupposition that everyone's doing the best they can with the resources they have available. Most people are not skilled in communication. That's why we teach NLP. Most people are not skilled in putting in their boundaries and holding onto it. The minute that we drop our energy into judgment, this is right, this is wrong, you are going to drop your energy and you are going to feel stuck in your problems. So this presupposition is asking you to shift your perspective, come out of judgment, and look at things in a different light. Now, the map is not the territory. The words we use are not the event or the item that they represent. I'm part of multiple different NLP groups, and I recently heard one of the facilitators say, what is one thing that you could say that I would know you are trained in NLP? And this is the one that stood out, that often NLP trainers, NLP coaches will say, yep, the map is not the territory. And when we break this one down, we're looking at the client who brings their story to you. And as a coach, we need to recognize that they are not going to give us that full picture. When we look at a different way of looking at this is that the menu is not the meal. What does this actually mean? So regardless of how detailed the map could be, it doesn't actually represent the experience of each individual on their journey. So while we can spend time together doing the exact same thing, we could be on holiday together or on a retreat together, we're both going to have different memories and different accounts of what actually happened. And so with the way that the filters of the mind work, with the delete, the distort, and the generalize, we need to remember when we're coaching somebody that there is going to be big pieces that are missing from their experience. So when we come back to respecting somebody's model of the world, the map is not the territory, it's asking us to really ask better questions, go into the meta model. Now, the next presupposition, you are in charge of your mind and therefore your results. This goes back to that core understanding of what is NLP. Everything starts off in your mind, your imagination, your thoughts, your beliefs, what you want to put out into the world. Thinking about even just the idea of a table, the design of the table, somebody's drawn it up, somebody's then measured it, somebody's then created it. That the table itself has started off in somebody's mind. So bringing it back to a coaching experience, the way that you experience your reality will start off with your beliefs and your thoughts. And if you are having a negative experience and continue to attract in stressful events, then it's like, okay, what is going on with your nervous system? What is going on with your thoughts? What is going on with the way that you're reacting and responding to your world? However, if you take the focus and shift it to something that's a lot more empowering, more positive, with more curiosity, then you are going to start to see very different results. And, even thinking about clients who have come in with money problems, and they're constantly thinking about debt, thinking about they're never going to get ahead, thinking about the problems of the scarcity and lack, there is no opportunity for them to actually see the opportunities, to see that paying off the commitment of their debt will have a ripple effect for them to bring in more abundance. So you're in charge of your mind and therefore your results. Very, very, very powerful presupposition of NLP. Okay, you have all the resources you need to succeed. There are no unresourceful people, only unresourceful states. So this presupposition can sound overpromising and disrespectful to anybody who's actually going through a challenge. Recently in my NLP trainings, we were having a look at this presupposition, and people had said, if I'm in a really stressful predicament and a challenging moment, this presupposition could rub somebody up the wrong way. This is not that fake, toxic, positive thinking, but this is actually when you have got that calm state of mind to recognize that you have that universal intelligence flowing throughout your body, that you can ask better questions, you can ask for support, you can do a whole different variety of things when you're in that resourceful state. Getting stuck into that victim energy, that your hopelessness and things are never going to change, this is actually not the truth of the human condition. You have the resources you need there are all the resources you need to succeed. So if you find yourself in that challenging situation, then it's time to have a look at those internal responses, what's missing, and what you can do about shifting that. So it's a lot of fun, this presupposition. There is no failure. Ooh, only feedback. So defining something as a failure will always bring in a level of shame. Think about those people growing up and they're not always hitting those A scores in class, and the parents come to them like, oh, what's going on here? Why are you such a, why can't you do any better? This is when that failure program starts to build up. That's when that shame program starts to build up, that somebody else has a level of expectation on you that you need to measure up to. So when we can use the coaching experience to shift that, to get rid of other people's expectations and other people's measurements of who you are and your success, if we can shift that out of the way, then we recognize that each and every opportunity or each and every experience is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to enhance you and your experience of this reality. So when we come back to this presupposition, there is no failure, only feedback. It's having a look at that feedback and looking at how you respond to it. Are you going to continue doing the same thing over and over again, or is it time to shift? So yeah, this one is enhancing your ability to have choice about how you perceive things. Okay, the law of requisite variety. The person or the system that has the most flexibility controls the system. This presupposition is the leadership presupposition. Let's have a look at it. So people can be attached to things being black and white. And that rigid thinking, right? It's sort of like it's either right or it's wrong. There's that whole, rigidness, that's what I'm going to call it. If we have the awareness and the choice to have a look at the shades of grey, you actually start to see more flexibility in how you can bend and shift and have more options. So a student had said to me, this is like thinking that you've only got one route to get to work every day, when in fact you've got hundreds of different varieties of getting to work. So if one road is blocked, there's shades of grey here. You've got other options. So this is about getting out of the blind spots and being able to try on a different model of the world, to get into that resourceful state, and to be able to be able to flex, to have influence with integrity. Now, the reason that I say that this is that leadership law is because we are all part of that complex system. We are all part of a system that's of moving parts. So the leader who is in charge of the system, and you are in charge of your life, need to have awareness that you have plenty of options. If you are able to be flexible and not so rigid in controlling the outcome, then you are going to find yourself a lot more at ease, a lot more empowered, and a lot more energetic to be able to create the outcome that you want. I'm going to put a bit of a pin here on this presupposition and say that if you are stuck in an abusive relationship, if you are stuck in a toxic, really heavy-duty challenge, please see this presupposition as not requiring you to be more flexible to go along with the abuse and, trying to help the other person feel better. This presupposition is saying be flexible to actually shift, move out of that situation, make good choices for yourself, not be flexible in a toxic situation. A lot of times students have come to me with this one going, well, I've got a client who's stuck in domestic violence, and if they're flexible to their perpetrator, then this is only going to make it worse. This presupposition is about being the leader of your life and having flexibility to make the choice that give you the sense of empowerment. Okay, lifting the energy. The meaning of communication is the response that you get. So everybody is communicating, even before you open your mouth, your heart rate, your blink rate. Communication is quite interesting, right? because it's a bit of an illusion that it's actually happened until you get the validation that somebody heard you, that somebody understood what you were communicating. So this presupposition is saying that you are in charge of the words that you say, but do not rely on the fact that the other person understood the meaning that you were trying to interpret. If you are saying one thing and getting an unexpected response, then this isn't about blaming the other person for not listening. This is actually taking responsibility about what you can do to adapt your communication skills in order to get the response that you want. Pretty simple, but it's an important one. I've got here, mother of 4 daughters here. Like, so repeating the simple phrase like go clean your room and then not seeing the results, it's actually your responsibility to shift and check in with the way that you're communicating your message. Is it your tone? Do you need to ask better questions? Do you need to get involved? Are there different kind of skill sets that need to come in here? Because if you're not seeing the results, it's sort of like, don't blame the other person, check in with what's the undercurrent, what's not being said, what's going on. Okay, next presupposition, all procedures should be designed to add choice and add wholeness to the person. This is similar to some of the other presuppositions where choice gives somebody the sense of freedom. So as that being of that complete wholeness, if you can design your processes to be able to clear away any fear, any doubt, any insecurities, then the client has more options to create an outcome that is more of alignment to what they want. So this presupposition is asking you to be able to get out of that rigidness, be able to find more choices to create an outcome that they may not even actually realize is so much easier to create compared to the way that they're going down that other path. This presupposition, bringing our attention back to things like parts integration, we recognize that people are of alignment, they're of that whole experience. And when we go through levels of trauma, it's like aspects of ourselves get fragmented, parts of ourselves separate from the whole. So when we think about like a 2-year-old who is not getting their needs met, they're having that tantrum, it's like that part that didn't get their needs met is now its own aspect. And so anytime that that person is triggered as a grown-up, that they're not getting their needs met, it's like that part takes over the system. And so this is an undercurrent of what this presupposition is asking us, is that all procedures should be designed to add choice and bring wholeness to the person. So exploring the triggers, exploring what parts are playing out and being able to help that person come back into alignment. So there's choices that are far more empowering. Resistance is a sign of lack of rapport. So there are no resistant clients, only inflexible communicators. So effective communicators accept and utilize all communication presented to them. If people resist it, this presupposition is saying to us that if they are not able to take on board what you're saying, if there is resistance, then somewhere along the lines of that communication, you have dropped rapport. And so it's not that the process isn't working. It's just the fact that somewhere along the way, rapport got dropped. They didn't ask the question. You didn't ask the question. Somewhere there was a disconnect. And so it's not about the process. It's about pushing pause and going back to the beginning, going back to that place of sincerity and integrity to find out what is it that's going to, what do we need to put in place to bring that comfort back into that forward movement. So real rapport is at that unconscious level. And so we may have to go back to the basics to build that again before we go too far ahead into their vulnerability. So yeah, resistance is a sign of lack of rapport. There are no resistant clients, only inflexible communicators. We're nearly there. Behavior and change are to be evaluated in terms of context and ecology. So anytime that we go ahead to do a process with a client, we need to check in that the changes and the outcome that we're moving towards is working for them, working for their family, working for their lifestyle, working for their world. So because NLP is absolutely so incredibly powerful, you can make big deal changes to somebody's life within like a 20-minute process. But just because you can doesn't mean that you should. This is about just checking in about the greater gain for the client and the ripple effect that your process could have upon them. So how could this one go backwards? If you think about a father as a typical example, where they have strong pride in being the provider and they have the strong desire to bring in security for their family, we could make a shift where they actually spend so much more time at work generating their business, blah 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 blah, that they haven't allowed for family time. And so therefore that particular change, moving them in that direction, it may look like the outcome that they want, more money, more success, but could it create a divorce? Are we going backwards? It's a very quick example. And then finally here, that's Mo Morris. All behaviors have a positive intention. So I took a photo of this one because Morris has just leaned up against my freshly painted architrave there and completely undone my smooth painting. And of course, his positive intention there was to be with me, to spend time with me, to check in, what are we doing, Mum? He had no intention of actually being naughty or causing problems. So this presupposition comes back to acknowledging somebody's intention. So going more human-based example, if you've got a client who's smoking, if you've got a client who's trying to work on losing weight, we're not going to focus too much on the actual problem of the smoking or the problem of the weight gain. The weight gain actually probably doesn't work for this example. I'm going to push that to the side. If someone is smoking, we're going to have a look at what is the positive intention underneath that. What is going on that's keeping that habit in place? Typically with smokers, they will start their addiction from a place of loneliness, where if they're smoking, they're part of the in crowd, they have a connection, a sense of belonging. So the smoking is not the problem. It's having a look at the positive intention and the need to belong and the need to be included. And then as a coach, having a look at what are the other ways they can get that need met, so that so that they can bring in more of that positive intention into their world. So that comes to the conclusion of my NLP presupposition slides. I encourage you to just explore what they mean to you, how you can adapt them to your business, to your world, and see what you can do to be able to help your clients live a more empowered life. That's why we go into this business, right? I'm Claire Chancellor from Be Your Purpose Coaching, and I'll talk to you later.